Of course. So my name is Adunola Adeshola, just like Hunter beautifully introduced, and I am a career strategist and coach to mid to senior level corporate high achievers who want to land a new senior role or pivot into a new industry without starting over. So I have had the pleasure of coaching hundreds of high achievers in dozens of industries. And we have had so many high achievers be able to go from overlooked to hired at companies like Google, TikTok, Vogue, Spotify, LinkedIn. The list really goes on. And so it's just a joy to be able to share my insight with you guys today. A lot of what I share comes from having the background of being in your shoes, being in that space where, I had the dream job and then it wasn't the dream job anymore. And then I was like, what the heck do I do now? And so that what the heck do I do now has become a strategy that I have now been able to implement and for hundreds of others. And I also have a Forbes article. So where our Forbes column that's been read over 3 million times. So I share a lot of career advice wherever I can to help others who are where I was and be able to make that transition and feel more confident in their careers.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. 3 million times that's been read?
It's kind of crazy. I
Yeah.
I say it and I'm like, or anytime someone is introducing me, I'm like, who is that person? Like, who
You're
is
like, I want to meet that person. Oh,
yeah,
wait, I get to meet that person every single day. How lovely.
exactly.
That's so incredible. Well, clearly it's helping a lot of people, and it's so great that we get to peel it back a little bit today and jump in.
Of course.
So, what are some telltale signs that imposter syndrome might be showing up in somebody's career?
Yes. So I feel like imposter syndrome kind of gets thrown out there and it's kind of become like a common saying, but sometimes people don't really know what imposter syndrome really means. And so imposter syndrome is like that quiet, nagging feeling that you don't belong, that you're not good enough, or that you're not deserving of the opportunities that are coming your way. And so some signs that you might, I think not feeling like you belong, not feeling good enough is certainly big signs that you're, possibly dealing with imposter syndrome. But some other signs could be like, constantly feeling like your success is a fluke, right? Or that feeling of
Mm,
like you're going to get found out, like people are going to find out that you're not good enough. They're going to find out that you don't know what you're doing, or feeling like you just got lucky in your career, like everything just kind of came to you easily. So does it really count, right? That feeling of like brushing off your accomplishments or overlooking them, or people tell you like, oh, you did great on that. You're like, really? Okay. Like you don't really own it, right? And so those are
mm.
some signs that you possibly are dealing with imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So I need you to get out of my head for just a second, okay? This got really intimate really quick.
It feels like a personal attack.
I feel seen and I feel attacked. I don't know.
I want you to know that you are not alone. So it is good
Yeah.
you feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I talk about imposter syndrome
Yes,
all the time because it's
yes,
always going on in my head
definitely.
all the time, even with
Yes.
things that maybe I've been doing for a long time in my life. But
Mhm.
if I just step outside of my comfort zone ever so slightly, it's like you're not qualified to say that or be here or who are you to say?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always say that imposter syndrome is a sign that you are living an ambitious life. And what you just
Mm.
said is like really spot on because you don't feel imposter syndrome when you're doing the routine, right? Like when you're doing what you know to do, or even when you're going after a role that's like, I've done this for 15 years, like you're probably not going to feel imposter syndrome. But the minute you're going after that next level role where you're going to have to possibly lead a bigger team or you're going to have to possibly transition into a new industry, you start freaking out because that imposter syndrome is a sign that you're moving forward, you're doing bigger, you're getting out of your comfort zone, you're trying something new. And so I think that when we can kind of flip it on its head and take away that negative connotation and really see it as a sign that we are doing something that most people don't do, right? Most people
Mm.
stay comfortable. Most people stay put. Most people aren't willing to try something different. And so when you're willing to be that minority of people who are like, I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. It is a good sign. And with that comes that feeling of imposter syndrome.
I am putting that as a sticky or banner, lights, big shiny lights above my desk that says the imposter voice is a sign that you're living an ambitious life. I love that. Mike, drop.
I love it.
So, so, so how do we know if we're taking control or not of our careers? Are there signs that like, oh, I'm on the right track, or oh, maybe I veered off?
Most of us have not been even taught to take control of our careers, right? What we're taught is go to school, graduate, get a good job, and then you'll figure it out.
Right.
Like
Good luck. Bye.
my career, I was like, I just have to get a good job. And then later on, I'm like, okay, what next? Like, what happens
Hmm.
after that? And so I think even the topic of taking control of your career is so important, but also an unspoken about topic that most people aren't doing it because they don't even know that it's an option, right? And so signs
Right.
that you're not taking control of your career, one of the biggest signs is waiting. And so I know when I was in a lot of high achiever shoes today, I was guilty of this, like
Hmm.
for me, especially the type of person that I am, I was taught that you put your head down, you do the work, and eventually opportunities will fall in your lap, right? Eventually, someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I see all that good work you've been doing. Come and get this money. Like, come and get this raise. Come and get this promotion. I genuinely thought that was all I had to do work hard and life would be great. And with that, the idea of taking control of your career is not even on the radar, right? Because you're waiting, you're hoping, you're putting in your time, and you're hopefully waiting for someone to say, we want to hire you, or we want to bring you onto this new team, or we want to give you that promotion. And so, one of the biggest signs that you're not taking control of your career is being reactive. Because you're waiting. So you're reacting to things. So, especially when we think about your job search, if you're like reacting to people reaching out to you on LinkedIn instead of proactively putting yourself out there, then you're not taking control of your career, right? Or if you are wanting to get a promotion and you're reactive, waiting and hoping that one day your boss sees you and says, "Hey, I think you're doing great. Let's bring you on." Rather than saying, "Hey, here's all the things I've done. I want this," right? And so really not advocating for yourself and not putting yourself in the driver's seat of your career is a big sign that you are not taking control of your career.
Yeah, I love how succinct that is. Just this one of the telltale signs is waiting.
Yeah.
It's so true and so simple of just that, oh, I just got to keep showing up and keep my head down, like you said, and just
Right.
waiting for that light to shine on me. It's like, no, we gotta focus the light right on us.
Yeah. And even when we think about our job search, like I already hear some people like, well, I'm doing all the things. I'm applying for all the jobs, right? And
Right.
sometimes when you're just doing all of the things, you can still find yourself in a place where you're still not taking control because you might be doing all of things, but you're downplaying your skills. You might be doing all of things, but you're not really claiming what you actually want to do next. You're just kind of going after what comes your way. And so I do
Mm.
challenge someone who's listening because I know I've been in your shoes for so many of you who are like, well, what happens if you're actually applying and doing all of that? I challenge you to think about how are you showing up still? Like, are you showing up as the best version of yourself? Do you really even know how to do that? Right. Which is okay if you don't.
Mm.
But then that's when we want to think about how can we get better at communicating our value, understanding our worth, advocating for ourselves, and really being able to say what we know that we can bring to the table with clarity and confidence so that at any point of your job search process, people feel like, wow, we need you.
Yeah. What are some tips that you would recommend for folks if they feel at a loss of how to get clear on being the best version of themselves?
Yes. So everything kind of builds on each other because if you have a default perspective that you have just got lucky in your career, then you're likely overlooking a lot of your skills. And I think that there's a lot of talk about soft skills. And when I talk about overlooking your skills, we're talking about the hard facts. We're talking about the results that you have really brought to the table. And oftentimes, people overlook the results or overlook their contributions or overlook the accomplishments because either they feel like, well, I did that on a team. So was it really me or was it someone
Mm,
else? Or it didn't take me that long to do that. So does that really matter? Is it really meaningful? And that in itself robs you of your opportunity to speak to the facts. Like, for example, there's people who I've had clients who are like, they're going after a manager role for the first time, but they haven't had a manager position. And they're like, well, I have done that, but I didn't have the title. So does that really matter? And it's like, it does, because it's hard facts that you have done it and you can do it again. Right. And so when we automatically think we've gotten lucky, which is a form of imposter syndrome, and we negate our skills, we do a disservice to others because we stop them from really seeing the full picture of how they can be benefited from our services, from our expertise, from our work. And so one of the ways that I would recommend starting is to really I'm a good pen and paper girl. So literally get a pen and paper, or if you're a Google Docs babe, get a Google Docs and write down all the times that you feel like you've gotten lucky in your career. I had one of my clients do this. I have many clients, but one client in particular, I told her to write down all of the ways or times in her 9 years of career that she has felt like she just got lucky doing that. What accomplishments does she remember that she was like, that didn't really matter? Write those down. Then next to those things, ask yourself, why do you think that was a lucky situation? Was it that it didn't take that long? Was it that you came in at the last minute and everything kind of worked out, but was it really you? Did it really matter what you did? Write the real thought that you have about why you feel lucky. And then from there, ask yourself why that isn't true, right? Because sometimes when we think about that client, she had 9 years of experience, and her ability to maybe solve a problem in 30 minutes came from the 9 years of experience that she gained. And so sometimes we diminish what we can do now because we forget of all the hard work we put in to get to that place where we can easily say the answer to that solution. And so once for that time, when she was able to do that, she realized that actually hard for those things. Like I actually really put some effort into that. Or you know what, that last position before I got that job really put me through the ringer and made me feel challenged. And now I'm in a place where I get it. I know how to do that work so much more easily, right? And so I welcome and invite you, if you're in this space, to really get that pen and paper, write that little chart and say, what were those specific times? Literally, you can pull out your resume and say, like, what are those things that you feel on your resume that you don't really believe, right? Add that as your list. And then ask yourself, what makes you feel lucky about that? And then why is that really not true? And you'll probably start with her in her situation. She had like 9 things that she wrote down, which was also telling because she had 9 years of experience and only one of those things made her feel like she got lucky. But she still thought her whole career she was lucky. And even with those 9 things, she realized that none of them were true. So I encourage anyone who's feeling like that to really do that exercise and see what comes about.
Yeah, I love that. So when you're working with clients, do you also bill as a therapist simultaneously? Like, how does that break down?
You are hilarious. No, because what's so funny is that my clients are like, even last week we have like weekly group coaching calls in my program. And one of my clients was like, my therapist said the same thing. Do you talk to her? Like,
Are you two in cahoots?
how it works. But I think it's something about me also being in my client's shoes. And I know the thoughts that I had when I was going through it. And I've seen the thoughts that so many other people have and have worked them through it. So I guess it just kind of works out that we get to really get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I mean, we grow from within, right? It's not that the exterior, it isn't going to ever prove to us anything. It's the growth comes from within, and then we can shine.
Absolutely. Yes.
So for folks that are dealing with imposter syndrome right now, maybe they're in the thick of it, how, what would you recommend to them to help them navigate out of it or through it?
Yes. So I guess I got ahead of myself because I did just give you a whole chart on what that looks like. But I also think that imposter syndrome is a constant work. I think
Hmm.
we get into the space of like feeling bad about the fact that we even feel imposter syndrome, then we paralyze ourselves. I tell my clients all the time, like imposter syndrome, if left undealt, either paralyzes your job search or sabotages your job search. Because what
Hmm.
happens is you go after, you're like, oh, I know I can do it. I'm confident. And then you see that job. And let's say you go on LinkedIn and you see 560 people have applied for the job. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't compare to all these people. Or you see the job and it's like at a company that's really exciting for you. And you're like, am I capable of this? Right. And so I think that it's important that you can do the exercise and you can list all of that, but by also constantly reaffirming yourself and getting clear on the hard things that you bring to the table, it will help you start to be stronger in communicating that, right? Because I always say that the job search is about trust. And this is why you might find that people who get referrals get job offers. We always hear like, it's all about who you know. It really isn't all about who you know. What that really is underneath all of that is that people who know that person tend to increase trust for them to feel like they can do the job, right?
Hmm.
And so your job, if you don't know anyone, because I am Nigerian American. When I was in my career, I didn't know I was in PR. My family didn't even know what PR stood for. Okay. Like I was like, I just have to make this work. And so I can say that like when it comes to you, if you don't have those connections, it's not about I'm lost or I'm defeated. You can build those connections, but also you can build trust. And one of the ways to build trust in the job search process is to understand why you should trust yourself, right? Why you can do the job that you want to do. And by communicating that trust to them, you increase their confidence to say, we believe that you can actually do this, right? And so, really getting clear on not just the keywords or the things that look good when it comes to your resume or the script that you should say in your interview. Beyond that is really getting into what is your story and how has your career really prepared you to thrive and excel in this next position. When you really understand that narrative, that is when you can really begin to communicate that in a clear, consistent, confident, and compelling way. And so it takes practice. I tell clients all the time that, like, you have had so much practice doing the work that you've done, and yet you still have imposter syndrome. so,
Yeah.
so it's going to take practice to get comfortable talking about yourself. And don't feel like you can't do it just because you haven't had a lot of practice doing it. Just keep doing it, keep working at it until you like and really believe in yourself, and then can communicate that in a way that people are like, I get it. I know it. I know you can do this. I have no questions, no notes.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And I can identify with that of it takes practice and it might be uncomfortable to actually own our accomplishments. And a light bulb moment for me at one point around imposter syndrome was there was that negative voice in my head, right? Which is very, very likely imposter syndrome telling me I can't do things. And so when I try to flip the script, the imposter syndrome is like, well, you can't believe that possibly, right? But it's like, well, I've been believing the negative thing for so long. Why not believe the positive thing and just try it on? There's no
Absolutely.
reason not to, right? And that for me was a big relief in my best days when I could do that.
Yes, on the best days. But it's true. Like it takes the same energy to believe the negative thing about you as it does to believe the positive. So might as well put to work the energy to believe the positive. So I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, the negative one is just much more exhausting, I think,
It is. It
over
is. It
time.
is. It is. And I think that I really just want to stress that it's okay if you are decades into your career and still feeling like a fraud. Like that is okay because it is normal. Like high achievers, I think I saw something that says high achievers, artists, and women are the main people who deal with imposter syndrome. So give yourself grace, but also
Mm,
know that you can fix this feeling. Like you can work your way through it and get to the other side where you feel confident in your owning your value for sure.
yeah. It is normal, right? There's so many amazing people that are brave and share about their imposter syndrome. Uh, I was reading Viola Davis's Finding Me, which is a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
harrowing book because she had
Yes.
such an intense childhood that she lived through. And she opens the book when she's on set with Will Smith, and Will Smith is like, "Who are you?" She's like, "What do you mean?" He's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Who are you really?" And she's like, "At the end of the day, I'm still that little girl that's getting picked on at school, you know?" And she still feels that. And you're like, "You are Academy Award winning Viola Davis, Queen Bee. Like, how is this possible?" But we all feel it, and it's how we adjust our relationship to it, right?
I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. Adjusting your relationship to it, not trying to like get rid of it because that's really hard to do if you're living an ambitious life. But instead, acknowledging it, adjusting to it, and shifting your perspective when it comes up.
Yeah, for me, there's been times in my life when imposter syndrome, doubt, self-doubt, self-critique. It's in the driving wheel, and
Yeah.
then I got it in the passenger seat, and then I
Yes.
got it in the back
Yeah.
seat, and sometimes I can get it in the
It's also
trunk, but it's
following
usually,
behind you.
yeah, now it's trailing me. I'm like seeing in the rear view mirror. It's still nearby, but it's not in the driver's seat as much.
Beautiful way to see it.
So if it never goes away, if let's say it's tailing us, a block away, but then it starts to creep up to the
Yeah.
passenger seat and
Yeah.
all that, what are some ways we can address it and maybe move beyond it if it comes up maybe in a surprising way?
Yeah, I think to acknowledge it, right? Because if you don't acknowledge it, it acknowledges you. So it's like you need to
Mm,
acknowledge it and say, oh, you know what? I'm feeling a little bit less than compared to other candidates, or I'm feeling a little bit like I'm not as qualified because I'm wanting to make this transition, or I'm feeling like, maybe I'm not cut out to lead this team because I've only led 3 people and they want me to lead 10, right? Acknowledge it and then ask yourself, what is the truth, right? Like, what is the proof and the evidence that you can do this work, right? Like, like I always say that no matter what your goal is, it wouldn't be on your mind or in your heart if it wasn't possible for you to achieve. So if we know that
mm,
you can achieve it, what we need to do is backpedal and say, what is it that you know to be true about why you can achieve it, right? So
mm,
acknowledging it, asking yourself what is it stemming from, but then also being like, what is the truth here? That can help you quickly be able to get out of it. Like I tell my clients, have it on your notes because if you know you're looking for a new job and you know you're making this level up in your career, literally just having something on your notes of like, yes, this is what I struggled with. I have clients who are older in their careers and they're like, I am too old. No one wants to hire me. It's like, okay, is that true? Right? Like, what are your main disbeliefs about yourself? Write that down. Have a little quick note about why that's not true. When you feel that feeling come up, go read it. Like literally go
hmm
read it and then say, you know what? Yes, I believe myself. I'm not going to believe this imposter syndrome. I'm going to believe myself and believe that I'm capable. There's proof to show that I'm capable of this. And I'm going to believe that
hmm
proof opposed to the idea that I can't do this.
It's funny. My
What?
therapist told me to do the same thing. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, is it true, right? Is it
Yeah.
true? And getting that feedback, right?
Yeah.
And when it's written in black and white, I agree. Writing down things black and white, columns, and being able to fact check it, it gets it out of the head and onto the page, and it helps me see it in black and white. Be like, I don't think I actually believe that, even though when I was thinking it, I thought I believed it.
Yep. 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 Because we generalize so many things. Like we like literally with the client who's like, I feel so lucky in my career. And out of almost a decade, only 9 times she felt lucky. Like we generalize so much. And it's so important to say, I feel this generalization, but is
Mm,
it true? Is this always the case? Is this always what's happening? Most times it's not.
right. We only have a couple minutes left. If you could give yourself one piece of advice when you were starting out and struggling with imposter syndrome, what would it be?
I would say you are already enough.
Mm,
And the reason for that is in my particular situation, I was working in a toxic work environment. It made me question my capabilities. It made me question if I really had great ideas, if I was really worth the goals that I had. And I
mm,
remember on my last day, the one of the people on my team, a leader on my team, was like, "We always knew you would be a leader. We always knew you'd do great things." And it was after multiple promotions that I did not receive, multiple times that I was overlooked. And I remember that day, I was like, wow, all that time I had been overlooking myself because of things that they said, when all the while
Mm,
they knew I was enough and I should have known it too. And
mm,
so I think that no matter where you're at, often when you're ready for a new career change or a new job, it's not, you wouldn't have the desire if you weren't ready for it. And so believe that you're enough and let that be enough.
mm. I'm gonna wear that like a warm blanket. That feels nice. That's like a nice chamomile cup of tea from you right there.
My gosh, Hunter, I need you for all of these conversations because you just really wrapped
Any
it in a bow.
time, anywhere you are, I want to be 100%. Just send me the Zoom link. I'll just be there. Even if I'm off camera, just in your ear, and you can just talk back to me, and I'll just be like, I'll be in my weighted blanket and just enjoying every second of it.
Love it so much.
Well, thank you so much for this. It was such a delight to talk to you. I learned a lot. I'm going to carry this with me today, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Yes, and for anyone who's curious, you can find me on LinkedIn with my first and last name, or on Instagram at The New Employees.
Fantastic. You can count on my LinkedIn request in
Okay,
about 5 minutes.
I
Okay,
will look
cool.
out for it.
All right. Thank you so much and have a great day.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.